Good morning and welcome to this meeting of Mid Suffolk District Council Planning Committee. I am Councillor Sarah Mansell and I will be chairing the committee this morning. I'd like to apologise for the delay, but there were delays on the trains this morning. So may I first of all remind you of some domestic arrangements. Please ensure that microphones are turned off when not in use. If you are attending the meeting to speak and persistently interrupt the meeting, you may be asked to leave. Please ensure your mobile phones are on silent or switched off and that your laptops are switched to silent. I would like to remind everyone present that this meeting will be broadcast live to the internet and will be capable of repeated viewing. The whole of the meeting will be recorded except where there are confidential or exempt items. The Council, members of the public and the press may record, film, photograph or broadcast this meeting when the public and the press are not lawfully excluded. If you intend to do so, please could you inform the committee clerk. If you hear the fire alarm, leave the building immediately via a fire exit and make your way to the assembly point at Ipswich Town Football Ground. Follow the signs directing you to the fire exits. Do not re-enter the building until told it is safe to do so. Firstly, some introductions. On my left, at the front here, we have the Area Planning Manager, Gemma Walker, and the Case Officer, Alex Scott. Behind him, we have our Legal Advisor, Ian Dupre. I have the Governance Officers, Claire Philpott and Alicia Norman, to make sure the meeting runs smoothly. And on my right, we have the members who will be making the decision. So, can I move to the agenda, please? Item number 1, apologies for absence and substitution.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 2, to receive declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest and other registrable or non-registrable interests by members. Are there any other interests to declare? No? Okay. So item number 3, declarations of lobbying. Anyone received any lobbying? No? Thank you. Item number 4, declaration of personal site visits. Anyone made a personal site visit? No? Right. Item number 5, MPL 2407, confirmation of the minutes of the Planning Committee meeting held on the 28th of August 2024. Are there any points regarding the accuracy of the minutes? Could I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Huddingham. And a seconder, Councillor Warboys, thank you. So a Governance Officer will now conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is now in progress. Thank you, members. Chair, that's 8 votes for. That's unanimous.
Thank you. So the minutes of the meeting have now been confirmed and will be signed in due course. Item number 6, to receive notification of petitions in accordance with the Council's petition scheme.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. Item number 7, schedule of planning applications. So we'll start with item 7A. DC 22-03203, Phase 3, Lion Barn Industrial Estate, Lower Street, Needham Market. And I'd just like to confirm that Ward Member Councillor Lawrence will not be participating in the debate or vote on this item, but he is going to stay in his seat because he's not intending to make any representation. So I will now invite the Case Officer, Alex Scott, to introduce the application to committee. Over to you, Alex.
Thank you, Chairman. So this is item 7A, application reference DC/22/03203. It is a hybrid application, that is part outline and part full application, for Phase 3 of the Lion Barn Industrial Estate development, and that is to the east of Needham Market. The outline element seeks outline permission for flexible employment use for 8 plots, of which are proposed in Phase 3. Also seeks full planning permission for the internal access road and associated works. Now, these works have already commenced, so the application is retrospective in this effect. And the site extends to 3.33 hectares. So moving to the presentation. So this is an aerial view of the site, and the area proposed for phase 3 is there, edged in orange and hatched, and the area of phase 2 is immediately to the northwest of it, and then earlier phase 1 development leading on in this direction. We'll come on to a bit more detail about that later. And this is a wider aerial view showing the site's relation to the town of Needham Market here. And so points of reference here, we have the A14 and the main line Ipswich to Stowmarket railway runs just to the northeast of the site in that direction. And to the south is the B1113 Ipswich Road. It's also called Lower Street in proximity to the south of the site there. This is the planning constraints affecting the site. So the site does lie outside of the settlement boundary of the town. However, it is part of an allocation in the neighbourhood plan. There is a apologies. I seem to have lost the pointer for now, but yeah, if you can see the green dotted line, that is a public right-of-way which runs past the site and yes, to the north and south of the road and railway line. Part of the site does lie within Environment Agency's flood zone 2, and that is shown by the blue line there, which is in part of the site. Stated in my report, there are several listed buildings within the landscape, but they're a significant distance away, approximately half a kilometre. They're not actually shown on this particular plan at this scale. Now this is the allocation, and this is an extract from the neighbourhood plan of map 2, and it is an allocation at policy NM3 of that plan, and yes, phase 3 is part of the site. So we're looking at the very far southeast. Apologies, I can't move the cursor. Not sure what we can do about that. Okay, just try. Well done. Clicker. Yeah. Yeah, seems to. Okay. Right. Thank you. Technical issue resolved. So phase 3 would commence approximately here and end here. So that we're looking at the far southeast portion of that allocation in the existing development plan. This is the site location plan submitted with the application. So we have what is currently proposed edged in red, and the full aspect is indicated in the red dotted line. That would be the proposed access onto the B1113 and the internal access road, which is here. And that, as I said, was existing. And then we have a bridge also across a culvert, which was approved as part of phase 2, and that's there existing. And this is an indicative master plan showing how the site will be divided. And then we have the phasing plan showing the site to be delivered in phasing. So phase 1 would be the access and internal access roads. Phase 2 would be the provision of the balancing ponds, the flood risk attenuation basins, and they would also double as biodiversity net gain provision on site as well. And we have the 8 plots. You have phases 3 through to 10 as shown, and they would continue this way, with phases 9 and 10 being the last ones envisaged to be delivered. And we would have individual applications for approval of reserve matters when they come forward, if you're minded to approve, of course. This is the estate road plan of what is proposed and what has largely been built out on site, as we'll see with the photos. So we have the existing access here, and actually proposed as well, but it is existing. And the proposed access roads there leading to the relevant plots. And this is the drainage strategy proposed. And this has been put forward to the Environment Agency, the lead local flood authority at Suffolk County Council, and the Internal Drainage Board, who have all signed off on this. They're all relatively happy with what has been proposed in terms of flood risk and surface water drainage, and there are several conditions in the recommendation that would have to be followed, but essentially this is seen to be appropriate. And we have a basin cross-section here. So it would be 1.4 meters from the bottom to the surface, benched in this location at approximately 33 centimeters, 0.33 of a meter, where there would be an element of standing water in perpetuity at the bottom. And onto some photographs. Now, at Chairman's briefing, I was asked to do a video. Apologies for several reasons I couldn't do that, but I have extracted some images from Google Street View, so hopefully that gives you a sense of the site and the surrounds. So we're starting off here, and you can see the red arrow, and it is the railway bridge that goes under the railway bridge here. This is Coddenham Road leading off in this direction, and Lion Lane, which goes round the corner here. So picking up from that corner, and then we swing round here, and this is a junction between Lion Lane and Maitland Road, which leads into the industrial estate this way. Then the next slide will be further in this direction, the corner of Ipswich Road, the B1130, and Lion Lane. Then moving up this direction, this is at the traffic lights and the other entrance into Maitland Road and the industrial estate in that location, shown by the red dot on the plan. And then this is interior of the industrial estate as existing at phase 1. So the traffic light junction is here, so sweeping round to Maitland Road, and then we have the junction of Maitland Road and Williamsport Way, which leads further into the estate that way. And this is right at the bottom of Williamsport Way existing, and the road into phase 2 continues in this direction, and then on to phase 3. Further to that, this is the existing access, which is currently proposed as part of this application, and that is in that location. And this is looking to the southeast along Ipswich Road from that point of access, and then back towards Needham Market. And this is a view internal to the site back towards that access. And then this is along the existing culvert and bridge. So this is towards the main road, towards the Ipswich Road. And sorry, the pointer's failing me again, sorry. So the gated site you can see to the left is the beginning of phase 3. What you can see to the right, the other side of the culvert, is phase 2. And just spinning round and looking north towards the railway line, that is the culvert leading off into the opposite direction towards the lakes and the River Gipping. And just finally some photographs from phase 3. So this is what's been constructed at the moment. So we have the existing roads and footpaths and some drainage, which has already been constructed on the site. And then finally there. So in terms of your officer's recommendation is to approve subject to conditions as set out in the report. And there were just some things to pick up from Chairman's briefing. The BNG condition, that should be specific prior to commencement, so we'd want BNG prior to commencement, so just to be specific on that point. And there was a question of lux and how we measure that. So what I could find was lux is equivalent to 1 candlelight intensity per square metre. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from members? Both of you put your hands up at the same time. Let's go for Councillor Elkin, followed by Councillor Haddingham.
Thank you, Chair. It was just I had a couple of questions about water quality. It's on, I think, page 29. It says that the surface water runoff is going to be discharged through that culvert into the River Gipping, and it says that water quality can be controlled through attenuation features proposed in accordance with guidance. I just didn't quite know what that meant, what was happening to the surface water runoff before it gets into the River Gipping to ensure it's clean.
Yeah, as far as I understand, I mean, it's quite technical, but it will be passed through the attenuation basins, and then there will be a controlled runoff rate through that culvert. So it would be.
It was more about it was the fact it mentioned water quality, not the runoff rate. Is
Okay.
the intention that the attenuation basins are, got reeds in and are somehow filtering it, or?
Well, we do have the agent here. I
Okay.
can see the hand being raised, so perhaps he can answer a bit
Just
more
some
of the
assurance
technical
that
questions.
if there's lots of surface water from lots of different businesses, it is getting cleaned before it goes straight into the Gipping.
Yes, I'm sure our specialists have checked that out, but yeah, we'll get confirmation of that for him.
Thank you. And the other one was about the, I think the internal drainage board said that they wanted the entire watercourse to be dredged, I think, and cleared between the sort of point where the water entered it. It says from the point of discharge all the way down to the main river.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that was due to concerns it was silted up, but I think that's in the conditions, but I just wondered if there was a mechanism to check that happens, or is it up to the internal drainage board to come back if they're not happy it's been done?
Yes, so we are recommending a condition, but I mean that was a point that we did go back to the applicant and agent on, and we've had a few meetings about that internally, and on the last one the drainage board were satisfied with that. It may have already been done already, I understand, but but we'll condition that and make sure that that's carried out.
Thank you. I think it is in the conditions. It was just about the follow-up.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes, whether they've done
Yeah, thank you. I think we can ask your question about the water quality to the agent when it's his turn. And I'm just looking at the conditions, and it does say clearing and regrading of entire watercourse from discharge point to the main river. Is there going to be a time on that? Will that also be prior to commencement, prior to occupation? That's one above the biodiversity net gain condition on your list of bullet points.
Okay, Yes. We would have to decide on a on a timescale for that, but I would think reasonable before any commencement of any further development on site. Yeah, that's what we'd expect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Haddingham.
Thank you. It's just comments from the Darmston Parish Council meeting on page from page 19. They're talking about vehicles getting sandwiched in between. I mean, on your thing, it looked like quite a sort of a clear, straight road. I appreciate there's a hill at the top, but could you just they talk about a left-hand turning from Darmston. Could you show on your slide again so we can have a look and see what they're talking about, or could you sort of talk us through their concerns?
Yes, sure. No, I mean, if I can get a map up to show where Darmston is. There. So I think this is the, dearie me, sorry, the Darmston turning. So it would be. It's a bit difficult to show without the pointer, sorry. Don't know if we can do anything about that, sorry. But the Darmston turning is to the south. Oh, okay, thank you, thank you. Oh, yep, we got something. Yeah, so this is the turning into Darmston Village, yeah. Yeah, so it would be here. Yeah. So that's the entrance to Darmston Village, which is just off the page here.
And where is the entrance on that map?
It would be in this corner. Let me just see if I can find it.
In reality, 50 metres down the road, or just see the.
Yeah, we can see it there in
The
relation.
mic's not on.
Sorry. So I'm just trying to work out. So that is the bottom of the page is the turning they're talking about, and they're thinking about vehicles getting stuck between. I don't really see their point. They're talking about the traffic coming downhill fast and getting caught up between lorries turning left out of there, but they'd be going in the same direction. Do you understand what they're saying?
Just review that.
Perhaps we run through it together and just try and see. So we've got something turning left from the Darmston exit towards Needham, and they're suggesting that might be slow moving, whereas there would be fast moving traffic coming down the hill from Blakenham. Is that? They would be coming up behind them. No,
So it'd be going faster coming down the hill. I think that's what they're saying there. And they get sandwiched between them. And whether large vehicles would have enough swing to get out of the access, it's not entirely clear, I have to say.
Thank you. Councillor Hardingham.
Well, if I could clarify a little bit, it's the rise as you come from Blakenham direction.
Speak to your mic.
Oh, sorry. As you come from the Blakenham direction, the rise is actually a blind rise. You can't see what's coming the other side from the Needham direction at all. And obviously when vehicles get to the top of that hill, they naturally accelerate coming down, and it's still a 60-mile-an-hour limit. So the suggestion is that people will get, they'll have fast-moving cars coming at them and accelerating from the right-hand side. I don't think it's necessarily a very large problem, but that's the point they're driving at.
Okay.
Because it's a blind rise and quite quite a tricky one. You know, it's one that it's better not to approach too fast, really.
Right. Okay.
Did I see some other hands up? Did anyone else got any questions? Councillor Warboys?
Yeah. It has been stated, but there's been quite a lot that the proposed entrance at the moment isn't in use at all. It's gated and it's not used at all.
Yes, I mean, it's... I can't say whether it is or isn't. It shouldn't be used. And I was assured when I was on site that it isn't in use. But whether or not it has been used, I'm not 100% on, but it shouldn't be used. Yeah.
Any further questions? Councillor Hardingham.
Yeah, I was just wondering whether there's any plans for lorry routing as vehicles come out, and whether this will lead to an increase in HGV traffic along Needham Market High Street, which is already quite congested.
Okay. I think the plan is to go to route towards the A14 trunk road and come out that way, but there's no proposal or condition proposed to permit that. So the concern is that they would turn right out of the site and go through Needham Market?
Well, possibly, yes. I'm just wondering if there was any lorry routing plans, because there obviously aren't at the moment for vehicles coming out of the existing entrance. But if this was going to be warehousing, for instance, then there would be significant large vehicle movements, and some of them might turn right as they come out, and of course they can't get onto the A14 through Bosmere Bridge, and they'd end up going through Needham Market.
Sure. Perhaps we can get the agent to confirm that.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett?
Thank you, Chair. There was a question from one of the consultees, Internal Drainage Board, about the bridge and the culvert that's within the site, and they sort of agreed that they weren't happy with it in its current state, and that the developer needed amending, but the developer, I think, didn't claim ownership of that bridge and culvert. Has that been resolved now? Do they accept that they do own the bridge and the culvert, and it will be amended to how the Internal Drainage Board to their specification?
Yes, I mean, this has been through several reiterations and reconsultations. I believe the latest one, the Drainage Board were happy subject to conditions. That's my understanding. So, yeah.
Sorry, just the question was, but has the developer accepted that the bridge and the culvert is theirs? I guess that was my question.
Well, the application shows it's within their ownership. So, insofar as that, yes.
Thank you. Any further questions? Could I just ask a question about the phasing plan, which seemed to imply that the road was phase 1, the drainage ponds were phase 2, and then the individual plots for use were numbered in order, but they're all different sizes, and presumably they could come forward not in that order, because if you had a customer who particularly wanted a certain size plot, so are they really in order, or is like 3 to 10 could happen in any order?
I believe if we are approving a phasing plan, we would expect it to come through in that order, that's my understanding.
Yeah, I mean, so if it's on our approved plans list, they would have to comply with the approved plan, but as always, there's nothing stopping them making another application to vary the approved plan. And probably depending on size, if we're looking at somewhere particularly enormous, we would want it to come through in a fairly controlled manner, because you don't want somebody the far end. Here is perhaps not quite of that scale. If they picked and chose, we might be happy to see some amendment to that, but we'd need to vary that plan at that time. But at the moment, it would be on that approved plan.
Okay, thank you. So if customers wanted it brought forward in a different order, that would come through as another variation of condition or something? Yeah, okay, thank you. Councillor Haddingham.
Thanks. I'm sorry to keep banging on about this. The Darmston Parish meeting were asking whether, there could be the slow sign on the road could be reinstated. Is that, considering that's highways, there's nothing we can ask for, is it all?
That would be down to highways, what they would need to provide. yeah, I'm not getting any indication that they would do that. Yeah.
But presumably we would be able to put it on as an informative.
I mean, we could, but that would really be an informative to the applicant who can't do anything about it. What I'd probably say is maybe Alex or I might be able to get in touch with County Highways and ask the question, but that might be as much as we're able to do. Exactly, time has passed, and what County Highways can or can't do, what they can or can't install is outside of the application's remit. Whether we between us have got some links to County Council that we could ask the question would be as far as I'd probably say we can go, unfortunately, but we can have a look into that if members would like us to.
Thank you. Councillor Elkin.
Thank you. On, I think it's page 24, Network Rail had raised all sorts of concerns just about, flooding, septic tanks, sort of dust on the tracks, things like that. I mean, it said they really wanted the developer to get in touch with them before any work started to agree an asset protection agreement. I just wondered if that was going to happen, if it's something that's, I couldn't see it in the conditions, so I didn't know if that was needed or if that was just going to happen automatically.
I think that would be really a private matter in terms of the actual construction of the site between the applicant and Network Rail. So they would be under obligations to do that. Whether it's something we could ensure in terms of planning, I'm not entirely sure we can, but yeah, perhaps another question for the applicant, whether they would carry out their obligations.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, so I understand that we don't actually have any public speakers who want to address the committee, but we do have the agent, Tom Phillips, here. I understand that you don't actually want to give any representation, but you're here to answer questions, but maybe you'd just like to introduce yourself. Yeah, press the button and the red light should come on your microphone.
Fantastic. Sorry, good morning, everybody. My name is Tom Phillips. I am the architect and project manager for Peter Colby Commercials and have subsequently been a large role within this planning application. Just to address some of the points that were mentioned in the last 10 minutes. In terms of the IDB and the dredging of the watercourse, we have actually started that by taking surveys and working out what the grading was that we needed, and then waited for the internal drainage board, but also the WLMA to agree on these works, and we have had discussions that have agreed what the conditions would be around what we need to supply and provide, and we are doing so. Obviously, this comes after planning. In terms of the culvert on the site and the bridge that was mentioned, that is 100% within our ownership, and we are doing everything we can to provide any details that are required by planning and other people. I believe that there were some upkeep matters, cleaning the existing culvert and other things that we are going to put a plan together and ensure that we have a maintenance plan on site for those aspects. Running down to the turning for Darnston, we believe that that's not a problem due to the transport study that's been produced. Large traffic quantities were measured and very few people are actually using our side of the development road to then enter into that part. Also, the brow of the hill is quite far away. One thing that I might even suggest myself is that we would be happy to put a site entrance sign or something of the like further up the brow of the hill if that was something that was insisted upon, that could ensure that people were approaching the site at a slower rate. However, people are, of course, approaching on the other side of the road, so we don't really see any traffic issues as of yet. Also, we will, of course, be applying for a Section 278, and part of those details are to ensure that the setback is large enough for HGVs to be off-road, and for personnel doors and other safety measures to be instilled. That's pretty much it, other than the phasing, sorry. The phasing, we have actually, as you know, we are discussing at the moment retrospective planning for a large part of it. The phasing has consistently gone as planned. There have been some hold-ups, of course, because we need drainage approval and so on. that therefore mitigates us being able to continue on certain plots. So as it stands, pretty much everything has gone through the phasing of infrastructure, groundworks and preparation, and we have put a hold on everything whilst we'll await for an approval, hopefully. Network Rail. We have actually discussed with them, with the asset protection team, not just about the culvert, but about the boundaries of how close we can work to the site. And if you look at the phasing plan and the actual master plan, you can see that we've pushed everything as far away from that boundary as possible. That's also where the BNG is going to be allocated and the attenuation ponds. It was already a flood plain as such when we acquired the site. So we do believe that we are aiding the water flow rather than adding and producing problems. But we are in discussion with the asset protection team.
Thank you. Are there any further questions of the agent architect? Councillor Elkin.
Thank you. It was just about the water quality issue.
Oh, yes, sorry. I did have an answer for this. So part of the drainage strategy, it actually shows, yes, there is an attenuation basin, but there are two other forms of mitigation to purify the water as such before it leaves the site. A cyclone defender, which is kind of a silt trap, a very large one that is going to be before the culvert that goes under the Network Rail. And then overflow capacity going back into the basin itself. But then each site, depending on the use going forward with reserve matters, will have to meet a certain clean and low flow rate coming into the main network. Also within the gullies of the road, there are going to be a sponge system that also helps to mitigate flow rate and contaminants.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Warboys.
Right, thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just a question. With regards to this proposed access, have you considered a sort of some traffic management at the access point? I think my concern is about lorries, heavy goods vehicles turning right into the estate or vehicles turning right out of the estate.
I see exactly what you mean. So typically they will be turning right into the estate because we don't want traffic to be promoted going through the town. And also the connection to the A14 is why this industrial area is becoming so important to networks up and down the East Anglia. We haven't got any measures for the turning right into site, but of course turning left out of site we have adequate space, adequate falls. The one thing I would say is the transport statement and study has provided a lot of information on how far the visibility splays are. And you do have almost 100 metres of clear visibility on both sides, whether it's overgrown or not. Now, we are going to put in some measures on the bellmouth itself to actually reduce the hedgerows as well. So part of the Section 278 will to be ensure there's even further visibility. There have been no measures put in place for any provisions to slow down traffic on the road. We're open to discussions if someone wanted to put that forward.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Hardingham.
Yeah, to go back to my question about lorry movements, you said you don't want vehicles turning right out of the site and going through Needham Market, but will there actually be any control over the tenants or owners of the plots?
I'm sure we can. The reality is we haven't put any restrictions in place, predominantly because no lorries want to turn right because it gets very narrow. There's no connection to the A14 other than going through a very, very narrow Needham Market town centre that has parking on both sides. We don't advise it. If it was going to come through as something that we need to impose on tenants, I'm sure they would oblige. The connection is going the other way to the A14.
Yeah. Second question. I've looked through your maintenance programme for the SUD scheme, and it's quite an extensive programme for all the gullies and silt traps and so on, but nothing at all about the crates. Are the crates going to be accessible in the future, or will they be underneath hard standing or car parks?
This will have to come through in reserve matters, depending on what each individual plot's surface might be. As it stands, they are going to be accessible, and we would aim to impose on any future tenants or purchasers that the maintenance plan is adopted by them per site.
Yeah, so you're proposing that that the maintenance programme will include a review of how silted up the crate tanks are.
Of course, and I think when we go through the conditions and we have to submit further detailing on the drainage aspects, part of this will be to ensure that the crate systems are highly detailed, and then we know the maintenance plan going forward, whether it's every year, every 3 years, every 5 years to check.
Right.
Thank you.
Any further questions for the agent? Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, as I understand, neither of the ward members for Needham Market has wanted to make any representation. So I will now open the item up for debate. Anyone like to make a start? Councillor Penny.
I was wondering whether members might consider adding a condition in some way to secure the traffic movement away from Needham Market. I don't know if that is something we could possibly do and include in any decisions should we decide to approve.
Is that something that we are at liberty to do? I'm just asking the planning manager.
Yeah, I think an HGV traffic management plan would be entirely appropriate for members to put on by condition. So if that's something members want to add to recommendation, happy to add that.
Thank you. Anyone else like to make a start on the debate? Councillor Patchett.
Well, I'd happily second Councillor Penny's amendment.
I don't think he's actually made a proposal. He's just suggested that we add that as a condition, but we haven't had a formal proposal of anything. But if you'd like to make any other comments, feel free. Councillor Haddingham.
I'm happy to propose that we go along with the officer's recommendation to approve. I think Tom's answered all the questions well, and I think we've got a clear picture of how it's going to work. And I think with Dave's suggestion about trying to stop the HGVs going through the town would be a good one. And yeah, I'm happy with this.
Can I just clarify the extra condition about the HGVs? Presumably that will only be applied to this phase 3 part of the industrial estate. We'll have no control over anything that goes to the other units that are already there on phases 1 and 2.
Yeah, absolutely. We can only control this particular phase and what's in that red line. But that gives us, some control, some scope. There will undoubtedly be other vehicles, lorries and things that might fall out of the scope, whatever we do, but it is something and can offer a benefit.
Thank you. So we have a proposal with that added condition. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Warboys?
I'm not sure what I'm going to say. So I just want to clarify a bit about the controlled movements. In my mind, there's a controlled junction just down the road into the site. So for traffic approaching the site towards Needham Market, that to me would make sense where it turned right at that controlled junction into the site. It is a clear road. It's unrestricted at the moment, and drivers being what they are, if they can see a clear straight stretch of road, they will be travelling quite quickly. So restricting right turns into the site at the proposed junction, to me, would help increase safety there, even though Suffolk Highways don't think it's appropriate. But and I think, as the agent said, that traffic is unlikely to want to turn right into Needham Market from that proposed junction, but would actually be turning left towards the A14. So in a way, we're kind of going with the flow there.
But I presume that the condition will just be that a traffic management plan be agreed, and will County Highways be involved in that traffic management plan or not?
So yeah, the condition would essentially ask the applicants to come forward with how they think it would work, how they think it would be managed, what restrictions they suggest. That would what we'd be essentially inviting. We probably would consult County Highways. Whether they would comment is questionable. If they don't suggest a condition, it is difficult to get comments on a condition, but nonetheless would give us more understanding of what's proposed by the applicants at that time.
And we're not stipulating what the management will be at this stage. We're just, the condition I think is just to have a traffic management plan agreed at some time. There'll be some condition about when it has to be done, I presume before occupation or whatever, but I think that's all all the condition is at the moment is that we're asking there to be a traffic management plan. We're not stipulating what it should be at this stage, as that's how I see it anyway.
I guess that's as far as we can go, is it? Yeah.
So do we have a seconder? Councillor Hardingham.
I'm happy to second the motion, yeah, with the condition about a traffic management plan.
Councillor Lawrence, you've got your hand up, but you can't participate in the debate. Is this just a question? Can you put your mic on?
I would just like to point out there is road traffic prohibitions who need a market of 7.5 tonnes already, and that's on the highways. If you put a traffic management condition from this exit from the site, there's another 2 entrances to the site, so traffic could divert from that passage traffic management plan by using one of the other 2 approaches. So I would just ask you to bear that in mind.
Thank you. So we now have a proposal and a seconder. Does anybody else wish to make any comment about this application? If not, then I will ask the Governance Officer to conduct the electronic vote. Do you want to just read out the condition as the new conditions? Because we've got another one, the biodiversity net gain's got a timing on it as well. So maybe you could just clarify the difference in wording from what we've got in our papers before we go for the vote.
Yeah, of course. So let me just find the biodiversity condition and confirm. So we're looking at approval as recommendation on pages 36 to 37 with an additional condition that the HGV traffic management plan is to be agreed, and to confirm that the biodiversity net gain condition was prior to
Further commencement, shall we say?
Further commencement.
Already been commenced.
So I'll just run through that again since we've settled that. So approving as recommendation pages 36 to 37 with an additional condition for the HGV traffic management plan to be agreed, and confirmation that the biodiversity net gain condition would be prior to further commencement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I will now ask the Governance Officer to conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote has been amended and is now in progress. Thank you, members. Chair, that's 7 votes for. That's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to now propose that we have a 5-minute comfort break before we move to the second application. So we'll be back at 5 to 11. Welcome back. We're now going to move to item 7B, DC 2401358 at the Angel Inn, 5 High Street, Debenham. And I will invite the case officer, Alex, to introduce the application to committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, item 7B, DC /01358. It's an application for full planning permission to change the use of existing public house to a dwelling at the Angel Inn, 5 High Street in Debenham. Now, your committee bundle, members, includes the previous committee report, reference DC /20/05595, and the appeal decision relating to a similar proposal to change the use of the pub to a dwelling. The difference being that at that time a ground floor room was proposed to be retained for a commercial business use, whereby the current application proposal is currently to change the entire ground floor to a dwelling. So the whole building will be one dwelling. So just for your reference there. The appeal was dismissed by the Planning Inspectorate in February of 2022, and the reasons are all set out there for you in the bundle. Hopefully that's okay. So moving to the presentation for the current proposal. So the location of Debenham within the district for the avoidance of doubt, and the location of the Angel within the village, so fronting High Street in the centre of the village there. We then have the aerial view of the site and a constraints plan. So within the settlement boundary of the village, within the conservation area of the village, which is highlighted by this shaded area. The building itself is grade 2 listed, shown by the orange colour, and it also affects the setting of a grade 2 star listed building at number 1 and 3 High Street, which is adjacent to the north. And the blue area you can see there is Environment Agency Flood Zone 2, so the site does actually fall within that designation as well, so they're the main constraints affecting the site. Moving to the proposals map, this is insert, which I've taken from the neighbourhood plan, and so the site is approximately here. The next slide is that blown up, so I'll move on to that in a bit. But essentially, you can see here the public rights of way, the retail core, which is shown in purple there, and the conservation area, which is delineated by the purple line. And also the commercial cores and the allocations for housing, 3 in particular, which of relevance to this particular application, being Aspel Road to the north, and then Low Road here, and also south of Ipswich Road as well here. So in total, there is an allocation in the plan period for 262 dwellings, and I believe there are been applications for those sites, and some have already been building out. So clearly a growing village, which is part of our considerations for the retention of the community asset, which is the current application. And so that previous slide blown up. So really the point to be made from this slide is here is the site. It does actually sit outside the retail core. And so for that reason, I haven't included neighbourhood plan policy DEB 13 for the reason it lies outside that. Therefore, that particular policy is not it's not activated for that reason. It is, although an employment site, so the employment policy does bite for that particular local plan. So here was the site location. So the existing pub and grounds edged in red. Land within the applicant's ownership also edged in blue here, which is the what's referred to as the other half of the former pub, which was granted planning permission by the planning inspectorate in June 2016 to change to a dwelling, and that included a rear extension to that particular part of the building. So following that, half of the original pub, as it was before that approval, was lost, and there is now the proposal to change the use of the other half, as we have with the current application. Onto some plans and elevations. So no alterations to the building are proposed by this particular application. So it will be exactly as it is now. I would suggest some of the uses of the rooms would change. So you have the bar area and the dining room, so they would be ground floor spaces. Existing pub kitchen, perhaps modified to a domestic kitchen. And upstairs there are 3 bedrooms, although the third has been noted quite a small size. So yeah, the suggestion is it would be retained as a 3-bedroom dwelling with a little bit of internal rearrangement, but no alterations proposed is the point here. And similarly external, no alterations proposed. So this is the other half of the pub, as is referred to. So that was lost by the previous 2016 appeal approval. And there you can see the side elevation of that, and this is the existing pub here. So no external alterations either. Onto some photographs. So we can see the existing Angel here on the street scene. And in the opposite direction, so this is the underpass through to the courtyard, which I've got some photographs of it later. And this just shows the relationship to the Lion pub, which has recently been granted planning permission and has reopened as a public house directly across the road. Somewhat a consideration to this application, but we believe there's still a need for this particular venue. So this is the access underneath the underpass of the building, coming out here into the courtyard. You'll see vehicles using that presently, and the existing rear of the building. And the flat roof element, and yeah, this is the adjacent extension which was approved as part of that 2016 approval by the planning inspectorate. And then just another view looking back. So in terms of your officer's recommendation, it's quite specific due to the fact that an appeal against non-determination has been submitted by the applicant to the planning inspectorate. Therefore, determinant of the application lies with the planning inspectorate and unfortunately not with us as local planning authority. So your officer's recommendation is to delegate to the chief planning officer to defend the appeal for putative reasons, recommending to the planning inspectorate that the application be refused for reasons as set out, and those are that we consider there to be reasonable potential to reopen the venue, having considered the viability information provided by the applicant, and we don't consider that sufficient marketing has been undertaken in accordance with your planning policies. There is also a significant flood risk. As we've seen, the ground floor is at risk of flooding in Environment Agency Flood Zone 2, and we don't consider sufficient flood risk assessment or sequential test has been has been applied to the development proposal, and with those allocations, as we saw in the village coming forward, there are clearly sites for housing coming forward which are at less risk of flooding. So that is one of the reasons for refusal, as we're suggesting. And the final one would be we consider, having taken the advice of your heritage officers and Historic England, the application is considered to fail to preserve the specific historic interest of a listed building and conservation area. There is resultant harm, and it's not considered that the public benefit of change of use would override that harm, and the optimum viable use of the building is considered to be that of a public house, not of a dwelling. So three reasons for refusal, as we'll be suggesting to the planning inspectorate putatively, and we ask for members' view and support on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the planning officer? Councillor Haddingham.
It's just sort of clarity, really, on me being nosy. On slide 8, behind, I think it's the property behind it, literally says Ford over it. So, I mean, is that as in a piece of water? On slide 8, it literally says Ford. Thing that can show exactly how close it is.
Well, perhaps the ward member can clarify if she's willing to speak. But I mean, this road, I know, does flood, and perhaps is designed to do so. So maybe it's in reference to that.
Okay,
but I'm not clear. Thank you.
Councillor Patchett.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, still new to planning, so not fully up to speed with sort of our planning speak. Just to clarify, on page 41 of our documents here, it says that it is not considered that the applicant has provided sufficient evidence to demonstrate that there is a sufficient supply of alternative and suitable sites. So does that mean that we can't stop, we want this to remain a pub because there aren't enough pubs, but haven't we just said that there's a new pub has just gone in across the road? So does that not undo one of our reasons?
Well, in terms of how the policies are worded, there's a sequential approach. So you would market it for a pub, first and foremost, and then if that is proved not to be viable, we don't think that's the case currently, but however, you would then go to an alternative community facility. You would have to market it for a wide range of things that benefit the community. You would then go to any other economic land use, business use. And then finally, if that's discounted, then you can go to a dwelling. So we believe that they haven't followed that process. However, I mean, the point about the pub, I mean, this wouldn't be the first pub. In fact, it wouldn't be the second, because there are two existing. There's the Woolpack, which is quite small. However, it still is a pub. Then you have the Lion opposite. However, it's considered that the Angel and the Angel Group have made this point that it offers something which the others don't in terms of space and what's on offer. And with all the housing allocations which are going into Debenham at the moment, it's a growing village, it's a growing population, it's a key service centre within the area. Others are far-flung, Stowmarket a long way away, Framlingham, a long way. So it does serve a large population base in the region. So yeah, there's still a need for this type of community offer, if you like, and they need to go through the process. We don't believe they have. Is that okay? Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Elkin.
Does parking play any part in that? Because the thing you just described was sort of the fact it has quite a wide potential market, which suggests people driving in to use the space. But my understanding was there's only a very small number of parking spaces actually on the site itself. I don't know if that's relevant at all to the reasons that you'll be putting forward.
I think I cover a bit of that in the highway section of the report. I think the view is generally that the existing pub, the parking would be on street. Indeed, the other public houses don't have on-site parking either, and there's considered to be sufficient parking on that main road going up to. Well, this is the advice we're giving you. But the on-site parking to the rear, that would really be for the owners and people working at the pub only. That's not a car park for people using the pub. They would park on the road, as they currently do. But would it convert to a dwelling? Then parking standards would apply. And yeah, we consider there to be sufficient on-site parking to that. So that's not a reason we're putting forward for refusal. Okay.
I think it was more, I mean, I know that area pretty well. I don't live far away, and the flooding risk is pretty significant in terms of it being a dwelling. I was thinking more in terms of defending it as a site for community use. You know, is it something that would it normally meet the parking requirements as a community building? Is on-street parking okay if it was just a normal application coming forward for some sort of community use? If they didn't have off-street parking, would that normally be acceptable?
Well, considering the existing land use and the existing impact, yeah, we believe it is. You know, even if it were to go to some other community use, that would be acceptable. That's certainly what I'm getting from County Highways. So, yeah, it is.
Any further questions? Councillor Warboys?
I'm just a little bit puzzled. It's what we're... this business of appealing the appeal is about non-determination of the... But we have refused this application before, haven't we?
The inspector have refused the application before.
Yes,
the planning inspector.
22.
Application, was it
not? Pardons, yes. It was a different application. This application is still live. However, the applicant has appealed against non-determination. So, yeah, so the authority to determine the current application currently lies with the planning inspectorate because they have appealed against non-determination. As local planning authority, we have to decide whether or not we're going to defend the appeal. So the reason that we're coming to you today is we're going to do as an authority. Are we going to defend it, and for what reasons? You have our recommendation. We're looking for you to validate that, as it were, if that's helps.
Can I just add? I
Yes,
think
please.
Alex has explained it. I think if I just may add, it's so the appeal against non-determination has taken the decision-making power for this application out of the council's hands. As Alex says, we have to decide whether to defend. So it is within your remit to disagree with the officer's recommendation and not defend the appeal, though it would still then be up to the planning inspector, because I'm sure the parish council and the local people would, I dare say, disagree and want to be heard in the appeal. But you have our recommendation, and it's with suggested reasons for refusal.
Councillor Penny, did I see your hand go up, or has your question been answered?
I would just sort of say there is nothing new in the current application at all. It's just, is there any new information presented today that wasn't already known before?
So new information, differences to what we previously considered and what has previously been refused.
Yes.
So the application currently before us is the change of use purely to a dwelling. The other application included one of the rooms to be retained for business use. So, an office, I think it was at the time. But that's been refused by the inspector at that particular application. What's moved on? I believe the applicant has undertaken a further viability assessment in the interim. However, for the reasons given, we don't think it's hit the requirements of the policy. They haven't come to us to validate that. They haven't carried out marketing for a continuous period as required by policies. So that's our concern, really.
But we do have, presumably when the previous application was determined, we didn't have the new joint local plan. So that is a new consideration. And what about Debenham neighbourhood plan? When was that made?
It was adopted in March 2019.
Previous application was determined before it or after it? Sorry.
Yeah, I've got June 2016 by the planning inspectorate. So yes, that would be before the formal adoption of that plan. Certainly.
So both Debenham neighbourhood plan and our joint local plan are new considerations to be taken in, which this application is being determined against.
They were both adopted. Yes, following that report. Yeah.
Councillor Elkin.
It's just from my understanding, really. You said it hadn't been determined. Is that because it's gone over some time limit? Do we know why that happened, or is it just one of those things?
Yes, yeah. As case officer, I have to accept some responsibility to that. I mean, we have 8 weeks to determine the application. Following that 8 weeks, the applicant can appeal against non-determination, and that's what they've done. Now, I did try and negotiate for further information. That wasn't forthcoming. They didn't accept my proposal for an extension of time, so they decided to chance their arm with the planning inspectorate rather than because I think they got a flavour of where my recommendation was going, and that is the reason.
Yeah. If I may just add, I mean, it is very you only have 8 weeks for a standard planning application, 13 for a major application, but this is only obviously a minor, not it's important to the people concerned, but it's not a major application. And it is very, very common for decisions not to be made within 8 weeks. Professional developers usually give extensions to the case officer. But I'm not criticising this applicant. It's entirely her prerogative to do what she's done, but for what it's worth, that's the context.
Councillor Patchett, did I see your hand go up again?
Yeah, you did, Chair, thank you. I'm not sure whether the planning officer knows the answer to this or whether someone from Debenham give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, but did this property flood in the last floods in Babette?
I'm not entirely sure, so maybe that's a question for local knowledge.
We can ask the parish council or the ward member about things like that, can't we? Has anyone else got any further questions? Can I just go back to the new plans, the Debenham neighbourhood plan and the Mid Suffolk joint local plan? Do they strengthen our reasons for refusal or diminish them from 2016?
I mean, I would say they're a lot stronger than what we had personally. I mean, that's a personal view, but yes, I would certainly say so.
Thank you. Any further questions of the case officer? If not, then I will now invite the public speakers to address the committee. And first, we have Catherine Barlow from the Parish Council. So you've got your 3 minutes. I will time you with my high-tech timer. So if you'd like to press the button on the mic, thank you very much.
Hi. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Just to clarify on the previous point before I start, the water lane is a ford and it runs just along at the bottom of the high street. Anyway, I'm speaking today not only on behalf of the Parish Council but as a parishioner. You'll have received the official response from the Parish Council which points to the relevant sections of both the neighbourhood plan and the joint plan, indicating why the request to turn this space into a residential property should be refused. The High Street is integral to any town or village, and none more so than in Debenham. We have a new housing developments around the village, some of which are still waiting to be sold after 2 years. There are up to 200 more in the pipeline. We're not short of residential properties within the village. We are short, however, of social spaces. And with no public transport in the evenings, weekends, and with limited services during the weekdays, these sort of spaces are crucial to village life. The Angel reopening would also provide much needed employment opportunities within the village. The Angel Public House is an iconic part of the village, and when the original site was divided and part sold as residential, villagers didn't think a public house would still be viable. However, the remaining part was successfully run as a public house until the owners decided to close it down. Since then, a group in the village formed to save the Angel, to turn it back into a public house and a community space, of which we are severely lacking in Debenham. The public house opening up over the road after 20 years and being a huge success has buoyed the group as well as the community. The Save the Angel group wish to make the building one that can serve not only as a public house, but can be used by all of the community groups in the village. It could be a base for a much needed youth centre, pop-up restaurants, lunch clubs, walking groups, tourist information centre, crafting. Possibilities are endless with a publicly owned and run social hub. The Angel sited in the centre of the village business area, and other local businesses will also benefit from it remaining a public house. I urge you not to consign the Angel to history, but to consider the future and allow the group and the parishioners to rebuild this iconic public house for the use of generations to come. Once it's gone, it's gone.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions of the Parish Council? Maybe, are you able to answer Councillor Patchett's question about whether the Angel was flooded during the recent storms?
It's empty.
Perhaps I can answer that.
Well, wait till it's your turn and then you can answer that, that's fine. Are there any further questions for the Parish Council? No? Okay, so we now have an objector, Alan Cushion. You've also allowed your 3 minutes. Just waiting for my timer to get through the previous one because the Parish Council was very succinct. Well done.
Can I start in her time then?
Right, so you've now got your 3 minutes. So you're ready to speak. You've already pressed the button. Welcome.
That's it.
No? Okay. Good morning. I'm Alan Cushion. I'm here to object on behalf of Debenham Angel Community Limited, a community benefit society set up to pursue a purchase of the Angel to run it as a community pub. We submitted an objection to the application which detailed our reasons for opposing, along with all the supporting documentation. We listed the various areas of legislation which we felt the application should be judged against, and where the application failed to meet the legislative criteria. So I won't repeat those arguments here. However, I would like to draw your attention to two cornerstones of the owner's arguments for the change of use to residential. Number one, the Angel's viability. The owners have commissioned 2 reports that claim that the Angel cannot be a viable business. Neither report considers the 6 continuous years that the Angel was successfully run under 2 different landladies up until the owners shut the pub in 2019. The report writers did not contact either of these landladies to obtain trading figures, nor did they contact our group to ascertain how we intended to run the pub, because a community facility is under markedly different commercial constraints to a purely commercial business. Therefore, the reports are of very doubtful validity and should not carry any weight. Second point they make was on the community failure to raise funds. We have received pledges of financial support, but have deferred turning these into money in the bank, pending a positive and receptive response from the owners. We have tried numerous times to engage in meaningful negotiations with them to arrive at a point where we have an agreed sale price and evidence that they would sell to us if we raised that amount. Until we do, it would be unfair of us to ask people to part with their savings for an unspecified time. Likewise, pursuing grant monies or loans would be hard to justify without some substantive change of the attitude by the owners. Despite this, we did make the owners an offer based on the pledges, which matched the last asking price of 270,000. The reply was that the Angel was not for sale, and if we made further contact, we might face legal action due to harassment. The owners state that they want to sell. We want to buy. That should be a good basis to start a dialogue on how to achieve our mutual goals. All we are asking is for that opportunity, and that would be best served by refusing the change of use application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Spot on your 3 minutes too. Well done. Do we have any questions of Mr. Cushion? Councillor Patchett.
If I'll just sort of reaffirm my sort of original question about the flooding, please.
Sorry, what was your?
Well, did it flood in Storm Babette in the last sort of sequence of storms?
We believe that it escaped, despite the fact that the houses next door did. We asked for permission to get access to the building to check. There is a cellar in the Angel. It's never been used, or has not been used for many years. We did request of the owners permission to get access for a building survey, but that has always been refused. They've never allowed us to do that. So we don't actually know for certain, but we believe probably not. The Bakers, which is next door, or the Debenham Coffee House, they just escaped. 2 houses down, the other side, well, you saw where the Angel had been divided in 2. As far as we know, the other half of the Angel didn't get flooded, but the 2 houses to the other side of that, to the north of that, did, and quite substantially. And I believe one of them is still not reoccupied. So,
thank you. Any further questions of Mr. Cushion? Thank you very much. If you'd like to turn your mic off. We don't have a supporter and we don't have an applicant or agent, but we do have the ward member, Councillor Teresa Davis. So over to you.
Thank you. Dear committee, you will have read my previous comments made in May of this year regarding this application. I do wish to add a few comments, but firstly I would like to say thank you to the planning officer for providing the proposed response for refusal. The Angel as a public house looks to have come into being from around the 1500s. It's an integral part of the fabric of Debenham and its high street. 500 years later, it remains an eye-catching beauty, both for tourists and residents alike. It is a cherished historic building which the community strive to keep and enjoy for years to come, which more recently isn't being given the chance to shine and prove its worth. Over the past years since COVID, especially in the hospitality industry, business has taken its time to recover, and more recently business has had to experience a nasty period of inflation. Yet here in Debenham, business remains. Debenham is an oasis of service within a very rural part of Mid Suffolk. It strives to provide for its residents and those villages within a short distance. Debenham is thriving. It has a doctor's surgery, a high school, primary school, leisure centre, community centre, popular churches, library, supermarket, greengrocers, butchers, cafes, florist, crafts, vet practice, takeaways and more. Not to mention its more commercial areas. It is increasing in the number of people it houses, with 3 new housing developments in progress, and has recently doubled its public house offering with the recent opening of the Red Lion. You had read about the comments provided by our economic team concerning our own joint local plan policies and also the national need to encourage growth, and more importantly, the recent national planning changes that reinforce the importance of a local neighbourhood plan. Whether it be in the hands of an entrepreneur or the community, the Angel needs to remain part of the life of Debenham. To lose this prime employment plot within the retail core of Debenham would be wrong. We need to maximise on the very local employment opportunities Debenham has, and I very much support the refusal of this application for residential use. Going back to the officer's report, I would like to add that as a regular pedestrian on the high street, it's much easier to make sense of the sources of information in the Debenham neighbourhood plan recorded for the retail core. And whilst the officer has detailed one reference, the map on page 14 details the Angel within the retail core. And on page 54, under 9.7 of Objective 3's aims, it states, Debenham has a recognisable core retail area. This extends from Water Lane at the north end of the High Street to the Cherry Tree Public House in the south and eastwards along Gracechurch Street and Low Road. The original map the officer showed was blown up. I don't think that at the time that it was drawn on, was it blown up to that size. So I would therefore, alongside the statement and the map on page 14, both within the Debenham neighbourhood plan, I would like that the residents' view is confirmed that the Angel is well within the retail core. Therefore, in reference to the officer's report at paragraph 2.7 on page 51 of the agenda pack, I state that the officer's assertion is incorrect. Policy DEB 13 concerning the retail core is indeed valid. With the exception of this paragraph, I find the officer report to be an excellent reflection, and thank you. I would ask that the committee today ask for the impact of the DEB 3 policy to be included, together with any other corresponding sources within the NPPF and the JLP, as part of our response to the Planning Inspectorate for a refusal of the application.
Thank you. Do we have any questions of the ward member? Councillor Patchett.
Sorry, am I allowed to ask another question of the other speakers? Is that? Yeah.
Well, if you ask a question and we think it's more appropriate that the other speakers answer it, I can allow that.
Okay, thanks. So I guess it's two questions really. I mean, because I'm reading their viability report, and you know that states that there's two other pubs, and now we know there's a third one. So, do we genuinely think that Debenham can sustain 4 pubs? It's not a huge village, and the parking isn't great for sort of extra people coming in, for visitors coming in. Do we genuinely think that Debenham can host 4 pubs? And also, with it being a listed building, with it being near a watercourse, and obviously we're losing about a pub a day nationwide, you know, can you raise the funds required outright? Because the chances are you won't get a loan or a mortgage on this because it's listed, because it's a pub, because it's near a watercourse. So that's the two questions. Is it viable, and can you raise everything in cash?
To Councillor Davies, if you can attempt to ask the question, and then you can refer to your the other people sitting next to you if you think they can answer it better.
Okay, with regards to the first bit, there's 2 pubs. With the neighbourhood plan, the Cherry Tree Public House is no longer a public house. That referral that I read out, because that was a verbatim quote. So there is only the Lion, the Red Lion, which is opposite the Angel, and then further up the hill there's the Woolpack, and the Woolpack is tiny. It's a tiny little traditional pub. The Red Lion, completely different. It does really good meals. It takes bookings. It's more of a different section of that hospitality market. With regards to the Angel, they would be looking again for. They already know their plans. Having spoken to the group, their business plan is all done. They know exactly what market they're going for, and we'd be having footfall, not cars, be coming to that place. I forgot your other part of the question. Have I answered both parts?
It was possibly because of a number of reasons you'd be unlikely to get a loan or mortgage. Can the funds be raised pretty much in cash, because that's probably what's going to be needed?
There's a government initiative. You may have heard of Framsden, which is a nearby village. They've just gained funds for their pub. That's a community bought pub. And they're in the process of doing that application with them as well. And our 60-70% of the residents within Debenham, and there has been a considerable wish to contribute funds, and they are very affluent. They're all owning their own houses, many are retired, and I can't see there being a problem in them raising the funds.
Do the other speakers feel that they want to contribute anything further in response to that question? If you want to put your mic on, Mr. Cushion.
I'd just like to add, there's quite a lot of difference between the Woolpack and the Lion. The Woolpack is a traditional wet pub. The Lion is very much a restaurant with a bar. The Angel will be not either. It will be, say, slightly, how would I put it, downgrade on the food, but it will do food. But principally, it's going to be a community pub. A pub doesn't open until the afternoon, and it usually closes at least one day a week anyway. So in the mornings and those other days, we see it acting as a focal point for all sorts of activities, which would draw in some income. But principally, the pub would be just to keep the maintenance and such like. In terms of obtaining the money, we want to get the chance. That's why we're saying if they get change of use, then we couldn't. But we would like the opportunity to really go out and collect that money and see if we could buy it. Give us that chance first. And then if that fails, all right, then we're stuck. We just have to accept what happens. But we have passed the first stage of the Community Ownership Fund. We would have progressed to the next stage had it not been for the election, which temporarily, we hope, ceased that fund.
Thank you.
All right.
Councillor Davies, did you want to come back on that question?
I wanted to give more information on the flooding, but that's only if you would like to get that.
Are you able to answer Councillor Patchett's question about whether the pub actually flooded or not?
Yes and no. The problem that we have is that the property is empty. So only properties that were placed on the county council map are officially sort of recognised as flooded. The neighbouring properties, I spoke to those residents, they were definitely well and truly flooded. And the key information is that it come up through the floor. So you've got the slide that you referred to, where you have the water going across the road, and it goes behind the properties, and it goes, and you'll see where it said Ford, and that was completely flooded. So the answer is we do not know if the water come through the floorboards of that property or not.
Thank you. Are there any further questions of the board member? I'd just like to, I've actually now got the Debenham neighbourhood plan retail core map up on my computer, and it looks to me as if the purple area, which is the shading for the retail core, goes the other side of that little triangle of sort of roads that I think, is that just in front of the Angel? So it does actually look like they haven't included the stretch of road where this pub is, but maybe you can clarify that.
I think when it was drawn on, I don't think they took into account what wasn't being included. I think they focused on the co-op, which is the supermarket just behind but further down. And I think they put more credence on the actual map on page 14 with the blue arrows on it. And also the definition is pretty explicit, that it's going from the water lane all the way to the other end of the high street. And it doesn't at any time stipulate that it's one side of the road or the other.
Thank you. Any further questions of the ward member? Okay, so I will now open this item up for debate. Councillor Haddingham.
Thank you. I'm more than happy for us to defend the appeal using the reasons that are listed in our notes. I think the present owner hasn't, joined with any communication with the locals, which I think is very sad. I think the fact that they haven't even followed our rules about how long to have the place on the market, and I think it'd be a terrible shame for Debenham, and I'm really excited by your plans that you've got for the place, and I wish you every luck for the future, and I hope to see it as a thriving community space in the years to come.
Was that a formal proposal? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Penny?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be very happy to second that. Sorry, there's a problem with my mic, Chair. I once went to a talk about beer houses and pubs in Debenham, and I believe historically there were 37. And I'm a regular visitor to Debenham and can bear witness to the fact that it is a thriving and expanding community, and I think it's very important to preserve our village assets, and so I'm very happy to second the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Did I see somebody on the front line? Councillor Hardingham.
Thank you, Chair. My question is really to the case officer and members. Would the inclusion of Deb 13 as a point 4 for refusal or for defending the appeal, would that strengthen our case, or would it perhaps actually weaken it because the point's not entirely clear one way or the other?
Okay, we've heard Councillor Davis's opinion on it. My opinion is as set out in the report. I think that plan showing the constraints is clear. I do not believe it's within the retail core. So would you include that in our reasons for refusal to defend the appeal? I think that would strengthen our position. And weaken, sorry, correction. And I think that would put us at a bit of risk to maybe award of costs, because we're including a policy which is, shouldn't be included because of where the building sits. So that would be my recommendation. And I've heard what Councillor Davis has said, but my recommendation I believe is correct. Different point of view, but yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Elkin?
Thank you. Yes, I mean, I don't live terribly far away in another rural, I live near it's a rural area. We have not very good transport connections, and we need places community facilities and places to eat and meet, where we live. So I will be very happy to support this. And in we have a couple of examples of, for us, it's former bank buildings that have been taken over, and they're thriving as community spaces, cafes. So we know it can work, and I wish you every success with it.
Thank you. Councillor Patchett?
Thank you, Chair. So certainly came into this with an open mind, and was happy to listen to arguments both for and against. And I think from reading, it had been up for sale in 2018, and there was no interest, and it had been up for sale for quite a long time, and there was no interest. And so it shows, is there viability in it for being a pub, and can a village of that size sustain that many pubs? Obviously, but now listening to the objections from the parish and from the ward councillor, and obviously the community, I would like the community to have an opportunity to try and purchase that pub, but that is up to the people who own it, whether they engage with them or not. I would like the community to have the opportunity to buy it, I do have kind of reservations on whether they can raise clear funds to actually get to the purchase price, and will they get a mortgage and a loan and a grant? That's unknown. I'd like them to have the opportunity to do it, but I think if down the line, if this, yeah, if down the line the money can't be raised, or indeed if the owners don't want to sell it to them for whatever reason, I think if this was then to come to us again in the future, we would perhaps run out of reasons why we could not do the change of use. But I really would like the community to have the opportunity to turn it into a community pub and a community space.
Thank you. Councillor Lawrence. Is your mic on?
I must admit, I don't think it's a planning matter on whether it's viable or whether the funds can be raised by an alternative purchaser, whoever they are. This is planning issues that we're dealing with and planning policies, and we have 3 clear recommendations from the case officer here, of which personally I think the most important is number 3, which is maintaining the historic fabric of the property and its Grade 2 listed building in a conservation area, and it should be preserved as it was built, as an inn. And how that is achieved, either financially or operationally, is not, in my view, the domain of this planning committee. So I'm afraid I disagree with the last comments made. It's not our concern. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to make any further comment? I'm going to support the proposal that has been made. And I think I probably agree with Councillor Lawrence, is whether the community can raise the funds is outside of a planning remit. But I do hope that you are well in touch with other communities, particularly across Mid Suffolk and elsewhere, where they have successfully managed to purchase pubs. I'm sure you already are, and I do wish you every success. And I think also like to just comment on the Debenham neighbourhood plan. I think it's unfortunate that that little purple line doesn't go down both sides of the road there, because maybe that was what they intended, and it's often quite difficult. I think the formation of getting your neighbourhood plan perfect is nigh on impossible, but maybe when they review it, they can add it in, so that it will then strengthen any argument about whether this is in the commercial core of the village or not. So yeah, I will be supporting the proposal, and I'm all in favour of having a few more pubs and other establishments in the villages. And just to point out that it is on a national cycle route, so let's hope some people can cycle there and not clutter up the road with all those cars. Unless anyone else has got anything further to say, we're not changing the recommendation. It's as it is laid out on our papers. So I will ask the governance officer to conduct the electronic vote.
Thank you, Chair. Members, that vote is in progress. Thank you, members. Chair, that's 8 votes for. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. So we now come to item 8 on our agenda, site inspections. Any site inspections?
None requested.
Thank you very much. So the next meeting of Mid Suffolk Planning Committee will be on Wednesday the 23rd of October at 9:30 a.m. here in the Council Chamber. So I now close this meeting at 11:51. Thank you very much.